Yo, 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 what's up, everybody, and welcome into another edition of Trust the Tape. I haven't heard anything legally. I've been saying those words for a couple of times now, so we'll see. But welcome into maybe Trust the Tape. It's good to see everybody.
My name is Jeff.
My name is Jeff. That, of course, is Bryan Broaddus of 105.3 The Fan.
Hey, Bri.
Hey,
Morning,
Bri.
Jeff. Morning, sir.
I do need to start with, I might have had too much energy drink for this to come across as heartfelt, so you're just going to have to know that this is all very heartfelt. We have crossed the 40,000 subscriber number on YouTube, and I think that's
Thank you, folks.
Surely that matters because it's an even number of 10,000s. So shout out to people who have been here ever since I was counting the Tinas, which is the percentage of people that are that have notifications turned on. They know who they are. Thank you to Bryan Broaddus, because you have been a big part of this. Putting your face on here very, very much helps people watch it. And I love everybody, and the Cowboys aren't any good, and the rest of the NFC East is awesome. So welcome to the world. It is lovely. Good morning, Bryan. It's good to see you, bud.
Thank you, sir. Congratulations on going over 40,000. Let's continue on this journey. A lot of fun.
Thank you. I'm only 54,000 or so away from Voch. I'm chasing down Voch Lombardi. It's going to be a long haul.
That guy's a beast. I mean, like I mentioned, I love working with him. I love working with you. I love the draft show. So yeah, a lot of cool platforms where a lot of engaged listeners. And so, man, it's a lot of fun for me to be a part of this. So I'm glad you guys give me that opportunity.
All right, we have a million things to get to, and I do want to do, obviously, we're going to do a lot of draft stuff because it's what we care about the most, but there is a lot going on with the Cowboys coaching search, and there's also the fact that the NFC Championship game is going to be the NFC East Championship game. It's going to be Philadelphia. It's going to be Washington. The Cowboys haven't been to the NFC title game since 1995. Everybody else has been there since 2010 or more recently. In other words, it's been 15 more years for Dallas than for everybody else. Is there a magic thing to that, or are we just picking an arbitrary point to get to and going, because they win a bunch of football games. They're competitive most of the time, but they are 15 years behind everybody else getting to a title game. Should we all quit?
No, don't quit. I mean, that's part of being a fan. But, but I think when I first started working with the team, okay, I'll go all the way back to 1992 when I was first starting in the league and competing against the Cowboys, and the last time that they had that championship success. The coaches, the team, a lot of things led you to just the dominance that you had during that era. There's been some really good, well put together teams that have had bad coaching. There's been some bad teams that I felt like had bad coaching. There's been some bad teams that have had good coaching. That the thing with Bill Parcells. The Tony Romo drop snap. I mean, there's been some things along the way that have kept this team. Aaron Rodgers, a 3rd and 19 completion. There's some things along the way that have hurt this football team. What I do appreciate about the fan base now is that they are more in tune. From back then, you had fans that were like, hey, it's all right. We'll figure out a way. Now you have a fan base that is more social media savvy. They're more podcast savvy. They're more listening to programming savvy. So they understand and they see it with their own eyes. They're a better educated fan. And so with that being said, that's why the bigger problem is we pick a number. The number is true, but the fans are watching other teams have success and getting to these championship games and winning Super Bowls. Listen, Kansas City Chiefs forever were not a good football team. Philadelphia fires Andy Reid. They immediately get Andy Reid. There's your coach. John Dorsey's sitting in a draft room one day and he convinces Andy Reid, like, we need to trade up for this Pat Mahomes. Go back and look at the Pat Mahomes draft and look at how we were talking about Pat Mahomes, Jeff. Look at that. We were all like, well, is he a first-round guy? Yeah. I said, I remember someone asked me.
Yeah, it's not true, Bryan. Bryan Broaddus was like, he absolutely is.
Okay, but see, that's what I'm saying. Sometimes the fate of history or a move changes the direction of your franchise. The Washington Commanders have changed the direction of their franchise. New ownership, you could talk about that. Very toxic, bad situation. You could talk about getting a new head coach, not Ron Rivera or Jay Gruden or anybody else that they've run out there. You could talk about now going and getting this kid. You could talk about Jaden Daniels and what he's done, pairing with a coach who at as an offensive coordinator appears to be outstanding, but as a head coach is an absolute disaster. Your franchises change on historically historic moves that you might make. The football gods sometimes give you the opportunity. I'm not saying, I'm just saying Dallas has made some good moves along the way. They've also made some really, really bad moves along the way. And I think that's why for 30 years, you've had this drought, because of historically, there have been some things that have happened along the way that have not allowed you. Look at the Detroit Lions. Nobody was a Detroit Lions fan except Detroit Lions fans. Now you watch what happens. Dan Campbell comes in. They get rid of these coaches. They get rid of Matt Patricia. All of a sudden they get Dan Campbell. They get Aaron Glenn. Your franchise direction can change with historic moves. Dallas has not had historic moves, and that's been a problem.
I have something on that in a second. Shout out to Beats Guy. Thank you for the super chat. And I'm very sorry to whoever said they tried to super chat and it didn't work. Look, I don't know what's going on with the settings. And if I ever don't have anybody else paying me, then I will devote my full resources to making sure that this son of a biscuit will let you give me money. After 34 years as a Cowboy fan, I won't watch anymore unless they sign a good head coach and make solid free agent signings. Voting with my dollar. Can't do it anymore. That is your American right. Go get it.
That's fine. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. If you're, I'll tell you this though, there are a lot of people out there that say that and absolutely won't do it. Won't do it.
I mean, it's also the part of the year that we're in, because we will always at this point get really, really mad at the Cowboys, and we're going to get to camp and people are going to look like good players and we're going to get confused and everybody's going to get optimistic again. It's going to happen. But I do think that the disappointing part about everything that you just went through, like everybody that is still in this thing or that is close to being in this thing, like all of their stories are different. It's not like there's this magical thing, but some of the things that seem to be in common that makes you feel bad about the Cowboys is in Washington. It was they changed the owner and the GM and the head coach. Like it was culture shift.
Absolutely.
What you said about Detroit was culture shift. And that it's not possible here. And that part sucks. And I guess it is possible. Like you could have a head coach, but it's the fact that the ultimate part of it will not change, I think, is going to be a lot of people's frustration.
Yeah. Could it change? Could it change with, and this is going to sound terrible, could it change with the passing of Jerry Jones?
I don't think so. I think you're just continuing the line.
I could say it could get worse.
Right.
Or Stephen Jones could say, listen, later in my life, I did not want to challenge my dad on this. He challenged him on draft picks. I don't think Stephen Jones necessarily wants to. If Jerry Jones wants to hire a coach, I don't think Stephen challenges him this last time. I just don't. I think they're going to ride with it, and it sounds terrible. It sounds terrible that it takes a man passing away from maybe culture change. But sometimes, that, like I said, Jerry's not going to step down. He's just not going to step down. So, you do the best you can with what you have and ride this thing through. And, like Steven stood up on the Johnny Manziel stuff. There's others. I mean, Jason Garrett, I saw him stand up on stuff. There's guys and gals that have stood up on stuff. And, Jerry is going to make the decision. There was a side of me for a while there that I thought that Steven was taking over more of a day over more of control. I think there's certain aspects of this football team he has taken over. We do not like the way that Stephen Jones manages the cap. We absolutely hate that. We hate the way that he manages the cap. I think that's an influence that he has over the team. That's what I think I think if you ask me, the biggest thing that bothers me about this football team is how they manage the cap. That's the thing that bothers me the most. And that seems to be under your scenario, things aren't going to change. Things will not change because they're going to manage the cap the way that Stephen Jones wants to manage the cap.
Yeah. And even that, like, I think, I don't know, part of it is just the way that they talk, because I do agree with you. Like, as I said, there's so many different ways, like the teams that are still alive. One of them still alive because Pat Mahomes mostly. One of them is, actually this year,
Pat Mahomes,
pretty much Chris Jones in the defense. But Pat Mahomes' team is alive. Josh Allen's team is alive. The Philadelphia Eagles don't have, with all due respect, if you're Eagle fans here, I know that they do watch. I don't think that your quarterback is really helping you. But you're alive because your team is the most cap aggressive at adding talent and has
General
had
manager.
you have the best team. The Eagles have the best team probably remaining. And Washington is here because of an entire culture shift and a quarterback that set the world on fire.
Yeah.
One of the things that they all have in common, which might hurt Cowboy fans too, is all four of them quarterbacks can move, baby. All four of them quarterbacks move, and it makes it hard on a defense.
Yeah, I look at all the teams that are left, and we had our discussions about Josh Allen. We had our discussions. I mean,
Ryan was right again. You're going to be quarterback guy.
No, well, I'm just. Well, let's be honest. The kid was throwing to cattle ranchers and pharmacists out there in Wyoming. You know, he wasn't throwing to real NFL people, and he didn't throw to real NFL people until he got to the Senior Bowl.
Yeah,
and no offense to folks from Wyoming, it's a beautiful state. I mean, beautiful people.
It's important to keep.
No, I'm trying to keep the line. I mean, I'm not. But I'm saying Wyoming football is different from Texas Tech football, or different from LSU football. These quarterbacks, or different from Alabama, Oklahoma football, where Hurts is from. There are things that you could point to that are the difference of why teams are here. Culture change, you mentioned with the Commanders. Absolutely culture change there. Dan Quinn, absolutely. I believe there's a side of the people, maybe the Cowboys, that Stephen Jones, maybe he wanted to get rid of Mike McCarthy after the Green Bay loss, and Jerry wouldn't let him do it. That is okay, because there's people in the organization that really, really, really love Dan Quinn. Really love Dan Quinn.
Sure.
And that could have been a guy, okay? But he's
we also all lie when the narrative works for us. I love that sports have narrative, because legend and narrative and storylines, those are all great. But and now everybody's going to go back and be like, why didn't you keep Dan Quinn? His last coaching job here was the worst defensive performance you've ever seen. In the biggest moment.
There's no question. And there's an organization that's not going to change its front office, but they could say, listen, Dan Quinn proved to us enough that he deserves a second chance.
Right.
I mean, that could have been okay. You mentioned ownership. You mentioned the generational quarterback, at LSU. I can only speak from the LSU games because I watched this kid carry a bad LSU team to 10 wins and him win a Heisman Trophy. Now, they have outstanding receivers. We've seen him, Neighbors and others that, our kid, we've seen they've got talent. There's no question. But these organizations, like I've said, have made these changes. They've gone to Howie Roseman as a general manager is one of the best in the league. That is Philadelphia's advantage right there. It ain't Nick Sirianni. It ain't Kellen Moore. Now, I'll say this, though, that Vic Fangio might be a difference maker as the defensive coordinator there. He's got a little Mike Zimmer in him. You know what I'm saying? He's got listen, if you're Vic Fangio, and you've got an idea of, I'd give Mike Zimmer a call and say, hey, listen, how those 2 games you played against him, you stopped this kid. What were you thinking?
The thing that throws me off the most about the Commanders is because we pay attention to the Cowboys more than everyone else, right? Like we watch a lot of football, but we pay attention to the Cowboys more. So throughout the season, it's like, Jaden Daniels is having this incredible rookie year. He looks like he's going to turn this franchise around. The Cowboys play him twice, and I'm like, that dude ain't any good. Like, how did the Cowboys have the magic button, even despite being hurt, to stopping Jaden Daniels?
They made Jaden Daniels look mortal the way that they played him twice a year. They pulled him. Marcus Mariota won the last game of the year for you.
Thank God. We needed that.
Yeah, Marcus Mariota doesn't step into that game. The Commanders are likely going to be the 7th seed going in.
Yeah. We got other stuff. Okay. We've covered that your Cowboys are sad, and it's going to make you sad. Now, one, I don't know if you're a gambling man.
Love horse racing. You know that.
The head coaching odds for the Cowboys, Brian Schottenheimer, is now a big favorite. Any chance of that? The odds are, now this is from...
Stephen Jones really likes him a lot.
Stephen
Jones really likes him a lot.
Brian Schottenheimer, minus 250. Kellen Moore, plus 250. Cliff Kingsbury, plus 350. Brian Schottenheimer is a big favorite on the DraftKings Sportsbook right now. That is wild to me.
Yeah. Well, that could very well be Stephen Jones. That could very well be they're thinking about their quarterback. They're thinking about who works with Dak. I know for a fact that, like I say, I've been saying it just a couple of minutes ago, Stephen Jones is a big fan of his work. There's some thought within the organization that Mike McCarthy and Schottenheimer were really not on the same page when it came to things that they absolutely wanted to do. I think with Mike McCarthy, you're dealing with a very paranoid guy. I think there was a couple of different things, a couple of different avenues that he took that within the organization that people were like, oh, okay, yeah, you're the head coach. We'll step back. I think there's people in the front office that felt that. I think there are people in the coaching staff that felt that with Mike McCarthy. I think there were some people on the front office that absolutely love some of these coaches, and
In
and
other
they feel
words, it
like
sounds like it makes sense to be paranoid when you won't guarantee my future. You're telling me who my coordinators are going to be. It makes sense to be paranoid.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, he was overly paranoid from the more I've gathered there. And there's other things. The man's gone, so we'll leave it to be. But the thing about it is that Schottenheimer. I thought that maybe if they went and looked at Pete Carroll, that Schottenheimer would come in and potentially be the offensive coordinator, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I understand. I mean, they've hired guys before like this. They've hired Dave Campo, they've hired Wade Phillips, they've hired guys that you didn't think were the favorite that all of a sudden, so
It's so
that's
bizarro. And let's just in a pretend world where Brian Schottenheimer, your current offensive coordinator, or I guess currently he's unemployed, right? All the contracts are up.
all the contracts are out. Those guys are all free.
Whatever. The guy who's been your OC in a world where he becomes the head coach, it's wild. Like we'll tell you if we think, or a lot of people are going to tell you if a guy's going to suck or not with no idea if they're going to suck or not. The one thing I would say about it is if it did end up that way, man, it would just be so uninspiring in terms of the entire world knows who the hot candidates are. And the Cowboys are like, I know a guy. And that is just wild to me.
See, this is where we got to remember where Brian Schottenheimer. Remember, Brian Schottenheimer started off as working on the defensive side of the ball with Dan Quinn. Remember, he was they had the Ben McAdoo coach where Ben McAdoo was working with
weird hair, not a coach face.
Yeah,
McAdoo, not a coach face.
See, that's Ben McAdoo. Not he started off. I had heard nothing but positivity. Now, just hear me out, please. Nothing but positivity from defensive players who worked with Brian Schottenheimer. Guys coming out and saying, because Schottenheimer's one of these, hey man, this week you got to be worried about Terry McLaurin. He's going to do this. He's going to try and stem you. He's going to try and, hey, you need to be worried about Jane Daniels because he's going to try and carry the ball here. And he's going to go, that's what Brian Schottenheimer, he did not have a offensive role. He had a defensive role. So all of a sudden, he's over there working with those defensive players, and they're like, Shotty knows what the F he's talking about here. So I'm just painting a picture, folks. I'm not trying to advocate, but he did start in a role where he was working with defensive players. Now, some of these defensive players are going to be gone. I mean, they're probably, Jordan Lewis, Oso Digizua, Golston. I mean, some of these guys are going to be gone. And so, but he has support in that locker room. So maybe Dak is now saying, hey, listen, now the one guy that I know that Dak game planned with a lot was our guy, Nussmeier. He game planned with Nussmeier. So if you get a Kellen Moore situation, I was hoping
get new Nussmeier to be his backup from.
Well, I was hoping that maybe that we could not have to have Kellen Moore, but get Nussmeier. Nussmeier has a son in high school here in our area that's going to play 2 years. I think Flower Mound Marcus. His other son is a damn good quarterback at LSU.
Yeah.
So he's trying to get back into this area potentially to watch his kids play.
Yeah.
So, but there's a lot of things going on there. But I could see Brian Schottenheimer having support. And folks, please, I'm just telling you what I know. He had a lot of defensive players that spoke very highly of him. So to me, it's not just him on one side of the ball. It's on both sides of the ball that he potentially has. He has that swell, that momentum of maybe getting this job.
Shout out to our guy Vance in the super chat. Vance is a good, strong. He's a good, strong listening man. Does Kellen Moore have a teaching problem? Recall 2i and company saying how confused the wide receivers were with the offenses last year here. I have no idea. I mean, Kellen Moore's results have been good as an NFL coach. I don't beat up on Kellen Moore the way other people do. I just facially profile him and I say, I don't know, man. I know what a head coach looks like because it's right here. It's right there. And I've got questions about this spot with Kellen Moore. I don't know. Have you ever heard anything about him being a poor teacher?
Well, I know that there's been questions about him standing up in front of the offensive group and then it not be a very, now he's been gone 2 years since, you know, he went to the Chargers and he's now in Philadelphia.
And is that overblown? Because I mean, he's led huddles forever. He's been a quarterback his whole life. That's
his personality, though. He is not a, you know, we all want a fire and brimstone guy until the fire and brimstone guy can't coach a lick. You know, we want that guy. You know, there's one thing to be, there's some good fire and brimstone coaches, Bill Parcells, Tom Coughlin. I mean, these are guys I've been with. Gary Patterson from TCU back in the day. All these men I hated absolutely working for.
There's some that are terrible, like Brian Kelly.
And there you go. There you go. There's the Brian Kellys of the world. Absolutely. You're right about that. So to me, and you know, teams respond in different ways to these coaches. Teams respond. But like I said, there's people out there that they will take anything over Kellen Moore right now. Yeah. We've got fans that are dug in on that.
Well, Brian, now I have an interrogation question for you. Get the light out. Put it right on you. It's getting hot in here. It's getting hot. You sweating? You nervous? I got a toughie for you. After watching the way that this NFL season played out and the postseason has played out so far, does it sway you in any direction on if you want to see the Cowboys, if they have the chance to, use their first-round draft pick on a running back, Ashton Jeanty?
I feel
like a lot of people watched Saquon yesterday and they're like, what about Jeanty now? And I'm just like, all right. I mean, block like that.
Yeah. The key is Jeff Southland, the offensive line coach, is outstanding. You've got Pro Bowlers across the board on that offensive line.
The line just blows people off the ball.
They've replaced the center. I think that this was my biggest fear as a Cowboy fan, was that Saquon Barkley was going to stay healthy. That was my biggest fear. You now see when the Giants picked Saquon Barkley what they were trying to get, and he stayed healthy for the Eagles. He had never stayed healthy with the Giants.
Well, the Giants line wasn't any good.
Never stayed healthy. Yeah, he hurt his wrist yesterday in that game, and he hurts his wrist for the Giants like that. He ain't playing the rest of the game.
Well, yeah, because it's not as much fun running for 4 yards a carry. It's way more fun running for 6 when you get to take the ball and go, wee-hee.
Tape that thing up and let's go play.
Especially, I thought it was cold enough outside. I was watching that game with my Eagle fan buddy, and I'd like to shout out to the Eagles kicker, because I told my buddy, I said, I'll cheer for my friends' teams. I want you to be happy when this day ends, because whatever, right? I quit. I'm doing the circus carnival bit with the Cowboys. But I'd like to thank their kicker, because I said I do like action. So I had the Rams +7 and a missed field goal and 2 missed extra points, or whatever the kicker did. It might have just been the 2 extra points.
2 extra points.
Got your boy paid. Yeah. My friend was happy his team won. He had to give me money. And I'd like to thank the kicker. That's all. I'd like to thank the kicker.
To answer your question, I would always take because you know me, Jeff, the first round to me is very important that I take the safest player, but the best player. And on my board, Ashton Jeanty will probably be that guy when they get to 12. Will it make the most sense for the team? Will it make the most sense for team building? I look at that as like, yeah, this kid's going to help me. Is it the position that everybody now is, kind of turning back? Teams are figuring out running the ball is good again, because you know why? Defenses are so small. Small defenses. Yeah. There's small defenses out there.
I mean, the Eagles were just everybody not named Jared Verse. They're just
Jared Verse is, and but they miss Fisk and stuff like that. But Jared Verse is a real effing player.
Oh, I'd be a monster.
Abdul Carter's got some Jared Verse into him, but maybe not that big. But he's same kind of guy. I mean, that's why you would love to have taken Abdul Carter from Penn State.
Yeah, I want the Cowboys to magically have the #1 pick, and I would use it on Abdul Carter. I think he's the best player in the draft.
There you go. See, that's what I'm saying. No, I mean, you're absolutely right. And to me, I mean, there's just take the best player. I don't care if it's Banks from Texas, Jeanty from Boise. It's one of those wide receivers. Just take the best player on your board right there. You know, the guy that has the least amount of maybe the least amount of holes, maybe the least amount of problems. You know, don't risk that 12th pick on something that is we're going to gamble here on. We're going to gamble here on one of these. You know, we're going to gamble on an potentially an injury. Now, I'll say this. I'd love to have Josh Simmons, the Ohio State
you were starting to say don't gamble on an injury, and then you remember that you love the Ohio State left tackle.
I do. But don't gamble on something that is potentially going to be a long-term problem.
Yeah,
I think if this is a simple, hey, he had to have this procedure done and it's fixed, move on. Let's go. You know, that's what I'm saying. But if the best player on my board at 12 is that runner, and we've stacked it that way in our room. I'm not looking back. I am not looking back.
And I'll tell you what now, I'm a man who gives credit to the good players. Jared Verse is a wonderful player, and he played really well for the Rams yesterday. But what we're not going to do is just make stuff up. That is so incorrect and not close to being right. We're not going to do that. Verse is better than Micah. Micah Parsons is a freaking monster. I did like that they were. I love a good storyline. That Jared Verse before the game was like, I hate Philly fans. All this. Jalen Carter tried to bet their game bonus before the game with him. He's like, put your money on it, and he's like, no, I'm good. But I did love, and then he got a sack, and it was just I loved the storylines. I think the beauty for the Cowboys is it's a weird thing to say. It's the beauty. The beauty for the Cowboys is there's nothing they don't need. They've ended up in a really bad spot.
You proved something to me the other day. You did a mock draft and you traded back twice.
That's because I got screwed on the first one. I was like, oh, man, I made a mistake. Let's just do it again. And then I realized that Mike Green was available, and then I got happy again.
Okay. You traded back twice, and you still didn't grab all the players you needed.
No, because you can't. Like I ended up picking in the first 3 rounds of a draft. I think I got to make 5 or 6 picks, and everybody's like, you didn't get the wide receiver. And it's just like, that's what the Cowboys need. No matter what you do, you need tackle help, you need corner help, you need running back help, you need linebacker help, you need I think it's a really big need to get CeeDee Lamb real help, a number 2 wide receiver. But like I am the one making that campaign, and then when I'm not able to do it in a draft because it didn't fall the way for me to do it, people, you don't get to get mad at me for not getting the wide receiver. We have to pick the best players. We don't just go reaching for need. That's how you taco and Mozzie this thing. We want to pick the best players we can and get the best team that we can. And if you did take the wide receiver, cool. Now my starting corners are Deron Bland, Kalen Carson, and Troy Pride or whatever. Like, this team needs so many things that all you got to do is let other teams F it up. That's one of my favorite Vach things, is that when he talks about how some teams suck at drafting, you just got to let them. The Cowboys are in a spot where you get to let other teams screw up. Let other teams think, I need this or I need to chase after this. And you just sit there and go, hey, who's the best player? I bet he's not blocked from playing on our team. Just pick the best players. I want to build the trenches. I want to build the trenches so much. It's a good year to find a D tackle somewhere in the first couple rounds. Probably do that. You're going to have a bunch of receivers. You're going to have a bunch of running backs. Just let it fall the way that it falls. Pick the best player, and it'll work itself out.
See, there's people that will argue, and I think there was a gentleman, Sullivan. I just caught his last name in the chat there. There's people that believe that there's this running back room is very deep. He's absolutely right.
I agree with that.
He's absolutely right. But
I'm going to get in trouble, Ryan. I watched Scadaboo this morning. I don't love him like everybody else loves him.
No, he's a good player. He's not not a second round player or anything like that. He
ain't my starting running back.
No, that's what I'm saying. There's things that there is a good group of running backs. The problem, like I say, do you trust Dallas to pick a running back in the second or third round with all their needs?
No, Brian, we're going to pick him in the 4th. Oh, wait a second.
No, that's what I'm saying. There you go. See, you can excuse me. You can talk about the running back depth here with the Dallas Cowboys, or the running back depth of the draft. You think Dallas, other than Jeanty, would pick a running back? I don't think you can guarantee that.
Man, I think this year they'll feel like they have to, unless
I kind of felt like they had to last year.
Oh no, you had Zeke ready. You kidding me? It's Zeke time. And then he got signed on with the Chargers to go tear it up in the playoffs. Are any colleges or conferences notorious for lying about players' heights and weights? Didn't you say they run downhill somewhere? Everybody
Ohio
lies
State.
about Ohio State. They run downhill. Everybody lies about height and weight. Just wait. I mean, if somebody
Scatterbo, he's listed as 5'11". The NFL dudes are telling me he's 5'9".
Yeah, and that's fine. I mean,
they're not lying. I mean, they're just probably
everybody lists things the way they list things. If you're real life 6'3" or 6'4", you're listed your real size.
Yeah.
If you are 5'11", you're 6 foot. If you're 6 foot, you might be 6'2". Is it me or does Jerry use the coach as the fall guy for the Jones family bad decisions? You're not getting me ranting at the end of a show. You ain't getting me. What are our comp picks this year, if any? They got quite a few. You got extra fives. You got extra
fives.
Six.
Yeah.
They got extra picks. But yeah, Jerry uses everybody as a fall guy. And I think it's a whole nother show because we got to go. But I think it's one of the things that I've learned from you, Bryan, that I think is actually at times I think it's a good thing, but I think ultimately it's a terrible thing. What helps the Philadelphia Eagles build the best team is there's a guy in charge who has the vision for what they're doing. Mm-hmm. And with the Cowboys, if the guy in charge has a vision for what they're doing sometimes, but then sometimes I'll take your opinion and do something that you want. And then sometimes you're the last guy that talked to me and I'll do what you want. We don't have a cohesive vision, and the guy in charge of doing the cohesive vision probably isn't the most qualified to do it. And it's not perfect. Mm-hmm. Congrats to the rest of the NFC East, though. It looks really fun. I bet you guys are going to have a great time in the NFC title game. I hope that you guys have the best time.
Who do you like between the two? Who do you think wins?
I think Philly wins, and the reason I think Philly wins is because they have a better football team and because I am probably in the football minority here, but I hate that we just play outside in the cold when we could build roofs because they're technically both Northeast teams, so it's fine. But it just gives an advantage to teams who live in cold weather because other people don't get to practice it or be ready for it. And we're taking away the ability of the teams to play their best. We're just going to do how do we mash into each other. And Philadelphia is a line of scrimmage juggernaut. So I think they play better mash into you football. That would be my guess.
And I think it's going to be a hell of a game. I would say that Philadelphia is probably going to win this game as well. I just think that there's this, when you look at the defenses and the way they play, then man, one team can get pressure with four. I mean, you look at what now it came down to the end, but the Eagles' ability to turn people over, we'll see what happens. The Commanders, that quarterback doesn't generally turn over the ball. So, I mean, it's going to be a really good matchup, though. Yeah. Like it. Really
Shout out to Jason with the final super chat of the day. Will picks mean anything for 2025 without a decent free agent haul when the league year begins? No. If they don't use free agency to add real life NFL starters, you're screwed next year. You need, they need 6 to 8 starters. And if you think that you can pull more than 1 or 2 out of a draft, you're being overly optimistic. It's what they did last year. And
there's a chance. Yeah, there's a chance this team could be worse than they were this year. There's a chance.
Absolutely.
If they lose all the talent that that they played with this year. Yeah, sure.
Hey, Brad.
And just always keep in mind, it's always one of 2 things: the hot dog or the bun.
Or the bun.
Now this is a hot dog bun. I think it's a hot dog too.
Thank you, Bryan. You're the best.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Have a great day. Look forward to seeing you on Thursday, bro.
All right, everybody. Happy Natty tonight too. Yeah, it is tonight, right? Natty.
It is tonight. Yeah.
If Notre Dame wins, Marcus Freeman deserves $1 billion because they don't have the talent to beat Ohio State.
Pass the plate. Pass the plate.
Damn it. Does that mean the good coaches stay away to not affect their career negatively? No, there's only 32 head coaching jobs. Somebody's going to take this job because it pays, and it's a head coaching job. Somebody's got to do it. Love you, James. Stop super chatting because we have to go. I got to go to work. DLLS Cowboys podcast. You'll catch Bryan on with Vach. You'll catch him on 105.3 The Fan. Catch him on Love of the Star podcast. You'll catch him on Cowboys.com on the Draft Show, and I'll be hanging out on YouTube. Thank you so much. Please hit the like button. Make sure that you're subscribed. Leave in the comments your favorite flavor of ice cream or topping to put on pizza, whatever. It's for the algorithm. Remember, you have no idea what anybody's going through. So be cool to everybody.